right, welcome to episode 4 of the Whatchamacallit podcast. Today we are in a different surrounding. We are actually at a listing recently sold by Serhant South Shore Meadow Farm in East Islip. Your usual today, Anthony Fergala, Cardinal Financial, Serhant boys, and special guest today. You read his books, you watched his shows, you bought his houses. We have luckily to introduce Ryan Serhant on the show with us today. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning. Let's go, South Shore.
How we doing?
Good. I like, sitting in a sold house. We kicked the whole family out. We're good to go.
No, we're happy to have you, especially new John Walsh, new partnership.
Yeah. One of the new branches on Long Island. We now have South Shore. We now have North Shore, right? And we do have Hamptons.
Yes.
So we appreciate your time. Thanks for making it to the island.
Of course.
To kick it off, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about was like energy, like how you just open it up with that. Let's go South. Like we were just like how do you always have that kind of insane energy and not just energy but positivity, because we both work in the same industry and it can not be positive sometimes. So how do you maintain that all the time?
I don't think I'm positive all the time. I definitely have off moments like everybody else, but I don't know. I think, dude, life is so short. Like, life is short and energy is a choice. And I think I learned a long time ago, like when I first got into the real estate business, the big difference between the people that I saw that were successful and everybody else was energy, right? Energy plus a little experience. And I couldn't change my circumstances. I couldn't change the fact that I was like 24 with no money, living in New York City, trying to be a real estate agent. I couldn't change the fact that my circumstances were that I lived in Koreatown and not on the Upper East Side. I couldn't change what school I went to, my parents, like all that stuff. But what I could change was my energy. Like, instead of waking up angry about my circumstances, I could wake up excited about the future and really project out who I want to be in the future and just focus on being that guy every single day and lead with positivity. And I think, like, the first time you do a deal or you get an offer from somebody when you're having an off day and you really turn on that high energy because you're like, we're going, oh, here we go. Welcome to the kitchen. There's someone just pissed you off or a deal just died, but you bring it and it works and you get an offer or they want to move forward on the house, then you become addicted to it. And you're like, okay, so that's the secret sauce. Sales isn't really about the real estate. It's a transfer of enthusiasm. And so I'll just carry that forward every single day because it is a choice. I could wake up and look at rain clouds, or I could wake up and look at the sunshine. And it's just, I get to choose. And I think predicting your future with positive energy is way better for your life than with negative energy.
Yeah. And no matter what the scale, obviously that was one of my questions for you because I struggle with it personally, is to not wear it on your face. Like, no matter how big, how small, we're in the same industry. Something's going to fall. Something's going to be a hiccup at one point or another. My biggest thing is not wearing it on my face. Yeah. And like you said, try and, wake up a little bit more positive, which I've tried to do. But at the same time, all of a sudden I have something fall apart in the morning, and then all of a sudden I have an accepted offer at 2 p.m. and all of a sudden my enthusiasm, my whole mood changes. So it's kind of just sticking to that consistently is something I need to do a little bit better with, which I have struggled with, which is why I'm working on it.
Well, I think if you meet ER doctors, like I have 2 doctors in my family that my family is married into, right? And they're both ER doctors. One upstate New York, one in Texas. And you learn a lot from them because they're like so comfortably numb. It's like that Bush song, for anyone who remembers that one. But like and for better or for worse, because nothing truly is life or death until you work in the ER and someone comes in with like half their face off, or like a leg just gone, or a car crash, or a gunshot victim. And so they learn how to balance their brain so they are like this at all times. Like, worst case scenario, they're like this. And then they get to experience highs, but there's never any lows, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't do a deal today. Like, what happened? Like, what deal did you not do last June 25th, 2022? Can't even remember what happened that day. You have to look at your calendar. You only remember the wins. Like, our bodies are not programmed to remember the losses, unless it's like a devastating core loss, like a family member. And so you know, I don't know. I look at doctors. I'm like, man, if they can still be positive human beings and they have to have like a kid die in front of them.
Yeah.
Why am I so bent out of shape over like a $2 million deal dying? Like it's not truly life and death. It's gonna be okay. And you're right. Like you might have the worst Monday ever. Like Mondays are always the worst in our business because people think through the weekends or they go and see another property. You thought you had a deal on Friday and then on Monday morning they send that email. They're like, hey, so sorry to inform you, but we're moving forward with something else. So like Mondays are the worst. But then by Thursday, you have an accepted offer on something you thought was never gonna sell, or you get that call from a seller for a $10 million spot. And you're like, oh shit. And now you don't even remember that Monday was the worst. So we also have to remember to live like you live in the years, right? You live like in the months. You don't live in those days. Those days are just like that concrete, that foundation to build up how great that year can be. And that's something
I think that's important for new agents as well to understand is that numbness is that you can't get too high, you can't get too low. And that's something I try to tell everybody. They get so excited for that first crazy deal. And then all of a sudden it falls apart and you get so beat up on it. It's like, you literally need to become that ER doctor. You need to become that. Otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to get gray hairs. You know?
Yes, so exactly. Your job is to lose. Mm-hmm. You know, I think a good mindset, and it sounds so negative, but it's really not. A good mindset to give is to all salespeople, but especially young ones who've never really experienced true rejection, right? They've either been like the most improved player, the most valuable player, and you know, in your small little world of your school and your family, you're always going to be the best, right? And everyone's going to cheer for you. And then you enter the real world and you realize a grandmother will lie to your face for $7, you know, or like people will stab you in the back and you're like, but you're my best friend. I don't understand. Why did you do it? Your job is to swing so often that you strike out all the time, but no one's going to remember all the strikeouts. They're just going to remember the home runs. Yeah. And so if you swing 10 times, your goal is to hit it twice. And so you shouldn't get upset about the 8 times you missed, right? You should know that, I missed those times so that those 2 could happen. You're never going to get those 2 unless you miss those 8 times. And if you switch your mindset that way, then okay, great. You're going to have team members who leave you. You're going to have deals that fall apart. You're going to have fights with this person or that person, but that's all to get to those wins so that you can experience in the first place.
It's like your boy Aaron Judge. I mean, that's a perfect example. I think he set the strikeout record, but then he also set
more of the members.
Like Babe Ruth does the same. You know, he did the same thing. That was what he was famous for. He struck out more times than anybody else.
Hall of Fame.
And it's like a blip, right?
Yeah. You bat 300.
I think we talk about it all the time at the office. It's like numbers.
Yeah.
Especially like, I guess, trying to get new leads, right? Cold calling.
Yeah.
The more you do it, you're going to get 1,000 no's, but the 1 or 2 that you get, you're going to be like, oh, I did that.
Yeah.
You know, I was there doing the work to get those leads.
Well, I think one of the hardest parts, especially in our industry, is not getting, like, is obviously, like you said, our job is to lose, but not getting discouraged in the sense of like, all right, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, I just lost this deal on Monday at 10:30 and, you know, someone came in with cash.
Yeah.
No longer my client's accepted offer. Now, all right, I'm going to throw the rest of the day away and pout and kick my feet. It's more of like you said, kind of flip it. And, all right, what can we do? What are we, you know, this negative effect, what can we turn it positive? But absolutely something I need to do. And something I'm going to definitely stress is the not learning from it, not living in the days.
Yeah.
You know what you could also do? There's 2 tricks that I use, and I still do it to this day because I think we're all still growing and evolving. The first is anytime you lose a deal or something bad happens, like go into your notes app on your phone and write down like what you're going to take away from this, right? You're going to realize, I should have been more aggressive and just forced it to happen on Thursday. I need to remember because you'll never remember the details. You're just going to remember the deal died and the feelings. Like I can't remember why Ken didn't buy that place on 46th Street. I don't know. I think something I can't, you remember. So write down exactly why, and then use that as, kind of a formula as you start building up of like how you're learning from every failure. Otherwise, it's a wasted failure, and that's really where, my first book, Sell It Like Serhant, came from, was just writing down everything good and everything bad about every deal I ever did and what I learned from them, and then what I was able to take from it and how I was able to then educate my team, which then turned into like our Serhant Team Agent Bible, which then turned into the book. The second thing to do is to really, we're talking about getting, really kind of building an even keel of emotion so that you can ride the roller coaster that this business is. Then go into your calendar app, right? So what day is today? It's the 25th? 26th. It's 26th. If you lose a big deal today and you're like, fuck my life, I hate this. I'm going to go find a 9 to 5. I can't do this anymore. Right, God, and you just like, you're depressed. It ruins your whole week. Go to your calendar on July 26th, 1 month from today, and do a note at 7 a.m. that says, open me. And in there say, I just lost this deal. This is what happened. Fucking bullshit. I hate everyone. Everyone should die, right? Just be angry, angry, angry. 1 month from today, you're going to wake up and you're going to see that calendar invite and you're not really going to remember, but you're going to open it and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm an idiot.
No, you're absolutely right.
You're not going to care. Or that person bought something else, right? Or you did 10 other deals now in the last month that you don't care anymore. And what it ends up training your brain to do is the next time something bad happens, you're going to go and you're going to make the same note in your calendar, except now you don't have to wait 30 days. The act of doing that is already going to make you feel better because the muscle memory is being built up to know that when you do that, you already know that in 30 days, you're going to feel fine. And this too shall pass, right? The best deals ever end up not mattering anymore. You know, the worst deals ever end up not mattering anymore. Like the biggest, we got bumped out of a $50 million deal last Tuesday, right? A $50 million deal. Everything was good. Our buyer signed, an agent in our office, buyer signed, wired a deposit, $5 million. No response. The CEO of that brokerage company calls us later on that day. Regret to inform you, we had actually sent out another contract. They countersigned and we're moving forward with another deal. On a $50 million transaction, immediately go into the calendar. And everybody
You have to break the phone.
right?
You see it on all scales.
Yeah. But at the same time, I remember early 2021, I had never done a deal in Palm Beach in my life. Fly down to Palm Beach with a guy on Thursday, show him 4 houses. We make an offer on the first one and we do a deal on Friday, 24 hours later for just under $140 million. And I was by myself down there and he gets on a plane and leaves. It was the most insane transaction I've ever done in my life. But I knew in that moment, this too shall pass. I'm also going to remember this feeling for a moment. And so I know I'm going to forget it. So I sat there and did a recurring calendar invite for every year about exactly how I felt. And I sat there in a restaurant by myself. Like I just did one of the biggest deals in the history of the United States, the single largest transaction in the history of Florida. I'm sitting by myself eating lobster. I have no friends next to me. There's nothing I can do. I got to get on a flight first thing tomorrow. I want to encapsulate this feeling because I didn't even know this guy before Tuesday.
That's wow. How'd you meet that guy?
Through marketing, right?
Right.
We promote as much as we possibly can, and you never know who's going to reach out to you. And so when we started the company at the end of 2020, I knew I wanted a high net worth division that catered to people 10 million and plus. So developers, but also just buyers and sellers of 10 million plus properties. So we called it Signature, right? And I made sure that in our initial press releases and on social, like people knew that this existed. And a concierge, like high net worth people work all the time. So they have people who do everything else. So a personal concierge saw it and like the Wall Street Journal reached out to me and said, does Signature also do rentals? And, we just started. So I was like, yes. Yeah. We do everything. We do anything. I have payroll now. Like I gotta like survive. So yes. And then nothing happened. And eventually, she introduced me to this guy who wanted to rent something on the Upper East Side on that Tuesday in January 21. And in that conversation, and I show him this place and stuff, I'm like, what are you renting a place for? There was no vaccine back then. Like there was nothing. People were still like quarantined. People were gone. New York was dead. Turned into, why don't you buy something in New York? Right? Things are half off. It was nuts. Like we didn't have a COVID bump the way every other market did where people were running to find houses. New York City had the COVID, literally bodies in Central Park. And I'm there like, let's do rentals on the Upper East Side while trying to build a company at the same time. And then we started talking about that. And I was like, what about Florida? And why don't you declare residency in Florida? Everyone's going to Florida. And I sent him things Tuesday night. On Wednesday, he was like, you know what? Talk to my wife. Let's go see shit in Florida. I'm like, really? It's like, do you do Florida? So, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You want me to go?
I'm gonna learn Florida immediately. And I learned it on Wednesday night. We flew down Thursday, did the deal by 5 o'clock.
And this wasn't a vacation home. This was like, I'm picking up, I'm going to Florida.
He literally picked up his whole life and just.
So you changed his life literally 48 hours.
Yeah, I think it was his decision. I think I had very, very little to do with that decision. But I think he just needed somebody to educate and inform. And so like if a guy like that who makes $1 billion a year can be educated and informed by me, then like so can the person making 250 grand a year. So can the person who's making $1 million a year. People just don't think through their life until you're in front of somebody and you're like, hey, I know you want to go and look at a 2-family, but let's meet in my office and let's actually talk about a single family that makes sense. And I think you can actually afford a pool. Having those conversations and people are like, oh shit, really? I could? Yeah. That's why we have the right vendors, the right bankers in our pockets, like everybody that we can create like a package deal to increase someone's lifestyle, which ends up feeling good for them and for you.
Awesome. So before we keep going, I just need to ask you one thing. Are you a Swiftie?
I'll listen to Taylor Swift. I listen to Taylor Swift all the time. I think she's amazing. I have not gone to one of her concerts though. I just don't think I can stand the amount of people. Did you go?
I did. I went in Vegas actually with
Wow.
And it was honestly the best experience of my life. We went to a Final Four game the night before.
Wow.
Diehard.
Oh, wow.
I'm a diehard sports fan. And to me, that was like the holy grail. Like,
And then you saw Taylor Swift and you just started crying.
almost.
What was it? The energy? Just so many people?
Just the energy. It was 18,000 people at the Final Four game, sold out.
Yeah.
It was a hockey stadium, so it wasn't too big. This was Raiders Stadium, so it was 60,000 people. Just everybody knows every word. And it's like,
insane.
It was just, I don't know, the vibes were just crazy. So anyway, they all make fun of me that I'm like this diehard.
Dude, I love Taylor. My goal is to be the Taylor Swift of real estate. I think that should be.
I love that. That should be
Mind changing. It should be a game changer. Be a market disruptor. Right? Take control. Don't be afraid to share your opinions to the betterment of your industry and then all of your customers. Like I distinctly remember, and the reason I say that is because I think The Real Deal wrote something calling me the Taylor Swift of real estate when she came out against Apple Music. If you remember back in the day, they came out and they weren't. It was a month free. Because they wanted to get everybody on that. Mm-hmm. But what they didn't tell anyone, it was also a month free for all artists. And so she came out publicly and wrote that whole article about like, hey, just want to let you know, this isn't about me. It's about every single person who worked so hard for me and for every other musician out there. For you to try to build up your ramp time by giving out our music for free, it just sucks for the music industry. And she was so public that Tim Cook came out and immediately changed it and said, nope, just kidding. We're going to pay everybody. Yeah. And that's, yeah. And so at the same time, I think I was speaking out very publicly when no other agent was against Zillow and StreetEasy in the city, but against them. And like they had changed the way that they were marketing our own exclusive listings to other agents for fees, and I was like, this just, do whatever you want, but this is not great for the industry. One, it's going to be supplying customers with agents who don't know the properties, right? And a bait and switch. And two, we work really hard to get to a point where you can have an exclusive listing agreement with a seller. And if we can't then be their representative on public platforms, then we're doing a disservice to our seller, all for you and your fees and your stock price. And I was super public about it and people got around me, but it was definitely dicey. Like to go up against, we can't live without Zillow
like
now.
His name in real estate.
Yeah, exactly. Like to go up against them was super, super risky, but it's like, you know what? If everyone backs me, then I think it'll be the smart move. And they made changes. You can now see immediately who the actual exclusive listing agent, if you want to get in touch with them, is.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to have the people's pictures, like buyer agent pictures there. Yeah. That wasn't the listing. And now there's no pictures there, and it's just the listing agent name.
Yep.
Now I got John's going to text me later and ask for marketing with his face on it, the Taylor Swift of Long Island real estate.
So I think John wanted to ask you something about, in your first book, you talked about how you were like awkward starting, right? What was it?
Yeah. So
nice.
I think we're doing our homework
down that road.
about that.
We're going to bring you back
So,
the awkward phase.
Like, I feel like you talked about how you made just a huge switch, right? Like you came to New York to act. Then you did the whole hand modeling thing for a little bit, which I think everyone knows about, right?
Yeah.
And you just speak about how you were super shy and like not athletic and like just not somebody that the total opposite of what you are now. And I think we kind of are a little on the other side, right? Like we kind of all try to stay active and like, stay fit or whatever. And Ja's very talkative, but I am not talkative like you are, like he is. How did you push yourself to just making that switch, that transition? Because obviously, other than like being a professional, your health and your life is above that, right?
Yeah. A couple things. One, my back was up against a wall. So I was pretty much an introvert and really, really shy leading up to when I got my real estate license, you know, and the whole reason I did theater when I was a little kid was because I wasn't the athlete, and, you know, I would get picked on or bullied. And so the theater kids were actually the nice kids because they were all the weird kids. And so I felt like, okay, I'm one of them. You know, we get to all pretend to be other people all day long so we don't have to be ourselves. And that was really it. And I'd moved around so much. Like I lived in Oyster Bay, I lived in Lloyd Neck, and then moved to the North Shore of Boston and bounced around a couple houses. So I had to keep making new friends every year, which is really, really hard, especially when you go to a school where, you know, most of kids in young schools, right, they grow up together. They have like solid friendships. And then you show up as a new kid and you're only there for a year or two, and then you're pulled out and go to another school. And so, you know, so it was tough. But when I got into real estate, my back was up against a wall. The only way I was really making money was hand modeling for $150 an hour. Like it was as real, like it's, you know, it's just what it is, what it was. I didn't want to get a survival job. And I looked around and I saw, you know, okay, so who are these other agents that are actually doing well? The one thing they have that I don't have is they've been doing it for 10 years, you know, or they grew up here and have access to their own school networks and their parents' networks. And I'm not from New York City. I don't have any of that. But they talk with a level of confidence that, like, my acting days really taught me how to do. It's really not what you say, it's how you say it. And the more you practice, the more you realize that everyone is insecure. You know, you can even be talking to the richest guy ever, and he's insecure because he's not as rich as that guy. And he didn't make the best deal, and he missed on Tesla or whatever it might be. Like, everyone has the same exact issues. They're just all relative. You know, like I'm insecure now because I'm a CEO of a real estate company that's only 350 people. And I had to sit on a panel last week with, you know, Rob Refkin, Pam Liebman, Howard Lorber, Mauricio, and be grilled by Gary Barnett, who runs Extel. And I was like, everyone's kid, you know? And I'm like, no, I gotta be strong. I gotta be tough. I gotta be strong. But everyone is insecure. They all have issues. And so, my secret sauce to that was just to ask questions all the time. The more questions I can ask people to get you talking about yourself, which everyone loves doing, the less I got to talk about myself and try to have a response for everything or know what to say. So just be really, really, really good at starting to create questions, right? So you can get people talking, and then really falling onto the 2 C's, right? Which are find something in common with everybody and always give them a compliment. So like for you, right, if I'm sitting next to you and I don't know you, you don't want to talk to me because you're in your phone, you know, I'm either picking the watch, right, which I haven't seen since 1984.
I had to take it back.
Dude, you're taking it back. So because listen, that was a choice, right? The watch was a choice. You made that choice when you got it and you were there. So that's like a cool watch. So I think it's cool. Like I'm wearing over, dude, where'd you even get that? I don't even understand. Like you go back in time, right? And so now there's like
I've been stored it in my whole life.
Yeah, so there you go, right? Or I'm talking about, you know, the lion, you know, on your arm and what that means and what it symbolizes is super cool. The level of detail in that too, but you also have like there's geometry around it. So what does that mean? And now you're talking about it. Yeah. You're like, hey, dude, thanks. I really appreciate it. I didn't want to get a tattoo for a long, I don't know. Now I'm getting to know you. Now there's a little bit of trust. Now you ask me what I do. Next thing you know, we're both in real estate, and now we find something in common. You know, same thing. Like your shoes are matching your shirt. What's going on? Oh, you just switched companies. It's crazy. You know, your hair has an amazing, do you use a blow dryer? Do you use a blow dryer? I use a blow dryer. You do use a blow dryer, dude. That's awesome. That's great, dude. You know, and so you're like any little compliment, and it's obviously easy to, when you're speaking to women, because they spend a lot of time focusing on what their appearances could be that day, find that thing in common, and now you're asking them tons of questions, and you're keeping the energy going, and you're choosing high energy over low energy, and next thing you know, it sounds like you know what the fuck you're talking about, right? That's really the secret sauce. That is it.
I also feel like a lot of the time, like someone that you're speaking to, almost 90% of the time, is inquiring or on the phone with you or whatever the case may be, because they want some sort of your help, you to provide them some sort of knowledge.
Yeah, there's always something.
So it's like one way or another, and you know, I would say 90% of the time, they assume and they think that you know more than them on the topic. You know what I mean? So it's like you said, like I used to be told to just talk with a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, you know, even if I'm selling an interest rate, whatever it is, it's like my manager will tell me like, you know, just go in confidence, explain how it works.
Yeah.
And when you're finished, they're not going to tell you like you're wrong. You're speaking facts on most things they don't know. So it's more of like, I used to struggle with it too. The confidence, comfortability of it. And and not really caring what anyone thinks, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you have no idea what anyone thinks. The only person who should care is yourself, and be intellectually curious. Even if you're not, even if you're faking it, because you just don't care that this guy is a giraffe wrangler or whatever is in front of you. Like, always be intellectually curious, because people love talking about themselves. Like, every seller, buyer, and definitely developer pitch always lead with padding ego, right? Be intellectually curious. We had a developer pitch last week, and I brought 2 agents because I don't want to make it my decision. So I brought one guy who does developments all day long. Clearly the obvious choice. But then I brought a young girl who recently started working for us, who's not the obvious choice, but is super, super high energy and is willing to like sleep in that apartment to get it sold. And I just made it the developer's decision, and I had them both pitch each other, pitch themselves in front of the developer, in front of me at the same time. Oh boy. Right? Just like introduce yourself. Yeah. Not like, hey, perform. Yeah. Make any less. And dude, he was so overconfident. He's like, listen, I do this all day long. This is what I'm going to do. Let me know. Wow. And then she like stood up and went right into the developer's history. And she's like, listen, I haven't done a lot of new development, but I know that in 1987, you were the first person to do this, this, this. In 1999, you did this, 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 this. And I love your design aesthetic. I love the architect that you chose from here. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this assignment. I will make phone call. And she went and then she had like a 3-part plan. And then she ended it with a compliment, and she sat down. I was like, what the fuck just happened? I can't believe it. They left, and I turned to him. I'm like, who do you want to go with? He's like, he definitely has the experience, but I want to go with her. And it was because she like led with a confidence compliment sandwich.
And sandwich.
It's how it works, man. And it's the same thing with delivering negative news to anybody, whether you're giving it like the buyer just pulled out of this, it's always that positive sandwich. What's the positivity? Here's the real shit in the middle. And then here's my positive solution on the way out, right? Always kind of having that sandwich together. That's how you retain that relationship. And so anyway, be intellectually curious, ask lots of questions, just focus on that. And any conversation becomes so much easier. What's the worst thing you're going to do? No one's going to punch you. Mm-hmm. If they do punch you, good thing you're not friends with that person anyway.
I think I have a punchable face. I might have hit a few times. I'm gotten punched a few times. So
it happened. I think one of the most curious things that I have a question for you is, because I'm in the same situation. We both have kids. We're both married.
Yeah.
One of my biggest struggles has always been, and you can ask my wife this as well, like balancing my time. Like, how much energy, how much time can you put into your work, your kids, your wife? And everybody's got the same 24 hours. So it's like, there's obviously a successful plan for this, and you obviously know it. I'm still working on it. I consider myself a great father, a great husband, a great worker, team leader.
Yeah.
But I know there's like a next level, and I'm just curious, like, did you have to train yourself for that? Do you use certain apps? Is it just something natural? Like, how does it work?
I wish there was an app.
Yeah, what's the key?
So if someone wants to buy a house that they love, right? But they can't figure out how to do it because they can't pay for it in cash. So they get a loan, right? They leverage the dollars they do have against the life they want to have, right? And then there's monthly work that comes into it to pay off the loan, right? It's the same thing with time. So you want to have an amazing work-life balance, which is really, really hard to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's more work-life harmony or work-life synergy. But it's something that you need to be able to get to because you're in build mode right now. So you leverage that time, but instead of doing it through a mortgage, you're doing it through other people. So you buy your time back with every hire and every team member you have. Whether, for me, it's, I don't want to focus on going to find food. So I have a nutritionist who helps. That is an expense I don't need, but I'm going to buy that time back. I have a driver to drive me around because that way I can do emails and texts, not just phone calls where I'm in the back of the car and have legitimate meetings. It's an expense I definitely don't need, but I'm going to buy that time back. And I'm going to grow and bring in people to help me with operations, even before you can afford it, because it's always investing into future you. If you're getting the person to come and plug a hole that you have today, it's already too late. That person should have been with you 6 months ago. every hire I've ever done to buy my time back for myself, because like you said, we only do have 24 hours in a day. 2 weeks later, I'm like, why did I not bring this person on months ago? Like every expense I've ever had that freaks me out, in 6 months, in a year, you always look back on it and you're like, yeah, okay, I could have done that a long time ago. Because it always pushes you a little bit. And I think it's important to really learn how to scale your time and scale your people base as much as you possibly can that way, because it'll force you to figure out how to do it. And we're all fortunate to be in a business where we're not locked into an hourly wage. It's a little bit different if you're a 9 to 5 person and you get one lunch break, right? And then I think you're saying to yourself, well, I got the kids in the morning, see my wife in the evening, and I'll touch base with a call or text around lunch. And that's your schedule, and that's what it is. In our business, we work 20 hours a day. You're always got a gun to your head. And so it's about really buying back moments with other people so that you can leverage your life even more.
And I think that's what makes our business great, though, is we do work so much, but to this day, I have not missed a Little League game, a football game. I'm a head coach of my son's flag football team. Like, it gives us that ability to do what we want and schedule how we want. But I think it's just that, it's like what you said, I got to do more of that, leveraging my time with people.
It's aligning yourself with great people too. I mean, This podcast is literally that, from the moment you and I first met, it's like, we should do this.
Yeah.
Right. There's an alignment here. No one works for anyone else. This is a partnership, and an alliance more than anything.
And that kind of leads into my question, because my lifestyle is a little bit different. And I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, and it will not make you run through when you wake up to when you go to sleep. But in my lifestyle right now, it's a lot of things that I may not be able to buy back, in the sense of I have to do them personally, whether it be gym, meal prep, whatever the case may be. And as well as, the work schedule. And like you said, we're lucky to not have a 9 to 5, set in stone. You have to do this, this, and this. But I know you do it, right? And I've watched you just literally say, like, someone walk up to you and say, Ryan, how do you stay in shape? And how do you, keep on track? And you're just like, well, first off, I don't eat shit. Like, that's the simplest thing. But like every day for you, and it blows my mind. And I really want you to answer. You do the same structure. Like, you work out, you eat like your meals at a certain time, and you go to work, and it all flows. You don't miss a beat. I know it's probably hard to say because things come, different, age stays different. But.
Dude, yes and no. Like there's days where you wake up and you feel great, and there's days when you wake up and you feel shitty. And you know that it's always going to happen that way. Like, I know that if I'm super, super tired today and just not feeling it, I know that's not going to last me forever, because I've been around now for some time. I'm not like 4 years old. And so I think, when I'm in New York, I do follow a strict structure, because it's what, honestly, like, I can lean back on. It's kind of like my comfort blanket. I know I wake up at 4:30. I know I get to do emails for a little bit. I know no one bothers me. I'm by myself. No one else is awake at that time. I get to go to the gym. It's not crazy there because it's so damn early. I get to do what I need to do, and then I'm off to the races. And now I'm energized. I've been up for, 5 hours already, where most people are like on to their first thing of the day. And then I have my regiment that I go through the day, and it keeps me structured. And I think, like, you have kids, do you have kids yet? No. So like, you see it with babies too, like, we all want to raise kids now in the 2020s, and we're like, let them be free. Right? Like, there's no punishment for kids anymore. There's no this, there's no that. And you realize that it actually hurts them.
Yeah.
Like, a little kid needs discipline and needs structure to be happy, because otherwise they feel lost, and I think we as adults actually feel the same way. Like, we want to be free, which is the hardest part about being in sales and being an entrepreneur. What do I do today? Like, wait, someone please tell me what to do, which is why most people, like 90% of the people who become independent contractors, eventually quit, not because the reward wasn't there, but because they just want to be told what to do. And the risk just wasn't worth it for them. And they're just fine complaining about it for the rest of their life. Whereas for us, right, we're not fine complaining about it. And so as long as you're good with creating that discipline and sticking to habit, you'll realize that the win is in consistency over intensity. Always. How many salespeople do you know who have, like, they crush it, and then 2 years go by and you're like, what happened to that guy? Where's that guy? I thought that, remember he did all those deals in 22, and he's like moved now to some other state or something. He couldn't handle it anymore. I was like,
Power washing or something.
yeah, exactly.
Power wash. What an example.
Yeah.
But no, who are you talking about? Yeah, that's like, he wants to John, definitely knows.
That guy on the outside of the camera knows. And then you just took a shot at him personally.
Yeah, somebody that knows.
No, but you're absolutely right. And I feel comfortable when I follow my schedule. And when I don't, I feel off. I feel off.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. But
But to piggyback on that is I have an issue. Like I was up at 4:30 this morning, went for a run. Like that's what I try to do every, but I hit so many walls. Like I want to pass out. Like right now I can probably pass out, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
What
just,
team should go in, John?
I'm not addicted to C4 and many other energizing drinks. But no, like how do you, is it like you don't drink that type of stuff, right? You do like green
I do it. No. I will. I do a pre-workout drink in the mornings.
Okay.
That, if I could inject it into my veins, I probably would.
Same.
Just to move it quickly.
Yeah.
And then the workouts are not
I'm
easy.
the oddball out.
Like I don't go like for a walk, right? Workouts are insane. I'm exhausted and then energized by the end of it. And it wakes me up from there. If I like really feel out of it, I'll have like a cup of black coffee, but I don't know. I'm not one of those people that grew up on coffee. So it doesn't like, I use it almost as like a special treat. Like I'll have it like on Saturday mornings.
A little burst of that.
I suppose it tastes like double espresso and the coffee.
Yeah.
No.
Martini.
No, that'll make me sick.
Oh, but
And then it's just and then you just and then you again, this too shall pass. Like if you're having an off day and you want to binge eat, or you're going to drink or do whatever, just do it and get it out of your system. You're going to wake up tomorrow. You're going to feel bad about it. Don't beat yourself up. Get right back on the train, right back on the routine. It's the people who then throw away the week where they're like, well, I've already screwed it up and it's Tuesday. So I'll pick it back up again on Monday. Like Monday is a construct. Like time doesn't really exist. Mm-hmm. So like you can start at 1 o'clock if you want to, but if it feels better to start tomorrow, then do that. What I found to be really, really helpful for things like that is to keep a counter. Like there's an app that you can download called called Days Since. Okay, called Days Since, and you can write down things. Like if you want to go, 5 days without having a drink of alcohol, put it in there and watch that fucking counter go, and then just make sure you give yourself a reward at the end. Like treat yourself. Like you get to have that drink, or you're going to get that car, or whatever. I'm going to book that vacation or something, and just hold yourself to it. And if that still doesn't work, then make sure you have an accountability buddy, right? Somebody, whether it's your spouse or your best friend or somebody else that's going through the same kind of thing, and just say, dude, I need to stop eating shit. Do you want to do this together? Because I cannot do it by myself. I was hiding behind a bush last night eating a milkshake or something. Like I clearly have a problem, and your buddy's going to be like, yes, fuck yes, I need help too. And you're going to call each other and you're going to ride each other. You're going to make fun of each other. And before you know it, all of a sudden it's been 8 days, and now it's going to be 2 months. And next thing you know, it's been 6 months. And then you go and have a cheat meal together, just as an example.
You have a six-pack.
Yeah. And now you're together and you're doing it together.
Have a six-pack.
Like having that buddy and that accountability system, I think does go really well as somebody who can really shame you into like breaking those bad habits.
Yeah, I got some friends that are cutthroat. They'll be like, oh, what are you eating today? Like,
do it.
Not the nicest way, but they do.
It works though.
It works. It works.
It works because it'll make you be like, oh God, no. Because it won't be about your own workout or your own meal. It's going to be, oh shit, I have to see him at 5 o'clock, and it's going to be a thing, And so there's different ways to go around it if you actually want to affect change in your life.
Well, absolutely. So I know, like 2 years ago, I might be off in time frame, but about 2 years ago, you launched Universe by Serhant. Yeah, that's what it was called.
Yep.
So that's when the metaverse was huge. That's when it was the next big thing.
Yeah, January 22, so a year and a half ago.
Okay, so that's when metaverse is here. It's not. We were ahead of it. It's coming. We all know it's coming. We all know NFT. Well, I know NFTs and crypto are the future. Whether it's investing or real estate. I'm not going to talk about the investment side because I could just go on forever, and they'll yell at me, talk about pudgy penguins and VFriends and all that stuff. But what I want to know is where do you see real estate and crypto going? Is it just in the future people will buy houses with Bitcoin, or is it the smart contract NFT way? Like, you're not going to get a closing packet anymore. You're going to get an NFT and that's your deed.
Sure.
Like, where do you see crypto and NFTs coming together?
I think the latter for sure.
Okay.
I think we've been due for change for a long, long time, right? I think it will take a lot longer to be adopted mainstream than we thought, just because the generation that is buying and selling homes all day long is older.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't really understand. Like, my mom still sends physical checks, like for my birthday, whatever. She's getting $100. I'm like, Mom, just you want to like sell me? Like, yeah, you have Chase. Like, you want to Venmo me? And she was like, what? Like, whatever. Just, yeah, this is my address again, Mom. Just like send me a check. It's fine. I guess I'll remove the bottom.
Keep the 100.
Yeah, I don't need it. But it makes her feel good to do it. And so, like, there's generational changes and shifts. So what I think has happened, and now too, even with AI, is like, the flags have been planted. These technologies are here and they're not going to go anywhere. Yeah. Whether it's blockchain and smart contracts, right, or the ability to create value with digital tokens, right, things like ownership over coins or NFTs, and whatever technology is going to be able to come now out of this AI boom is all going to be to the benefit of every industry. I think especially real estate. Who said it best? I think Warren Buffett said, do you own refrigerant stocks or do you own Coca-Cola? Right. And everyone in the room was like, well, I don't even know what a refrigerant stock would be. So I guess I own Coca-Cola, because you're buying the brand. Coca-Cola didn't exist until refrigerators were invented, until the action of being able to plug something in and cool drinks forever and make ice became a mainstream thing. That's exactly what crypto, NFTs, and AI is. So what does it then come from them? It's not owning that actual NFT. It's, okay, so now what industry can adapt to the new technology that it's going to let it really, really blow up from there? And I think we all just have to think about that as the industry moves forward. So Universe is a virtual world that works best right now for our staff, okay? And our expansion teams who mostly still work from home, who don't have a physical space to go to, and who are onboarding younger agents who just graduated high school on a computer, and all of their friends are either in Fortnite or some other game, and they've got that screen on at all times. If you think that person is going to grow up and want a cubicle, you are dead wrong. That person is going to grow up and say, this is where my friends are. I watch them play video games live. I want my work experience to be the same way because my brain has now been programmed that way. And so I want to be able to deliver that experience to those future real estate rock stars to the benefit of your team's growth, right? And for all of us. And so I don't exactly know where the future goes, but I know we're definitely excited about it. I want to be at the forefront as best we possibly can. And I'm not embarrassed to take swings or try to adapt or make moves as much as possible.
Do you own any NFTs?
I did a little bit and then sold out relatively pretty quickly.
Okay.
I do own a lot of crypto.
Okay.
And I just keep on my ledger and put in a drawer and kind of forget about it,
Forget it.
I've got like my 24 secret words or whatever these are. Don't want to lose those. No, it's such a process. I have it because it's like anything, right? Markets go up and markets go down, and markets go up and markets go down. I don't even know what $1 is worth today.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So it remains to be seen, but we're excited.
Awesome. I think the last thing that we want to ask you really is if you can give us something original. Now, you did a couple New York Times bestsellers. You've been on Bravo. You've had a couple shows. Everybody knows your life. Everybody's heard every story. You've done so many interviews. Is there any story, whether it's a real estate transaction, whether it was just a sick experience you had just because now, you're this big rock star is there somebody that you got to unheard of? Just that nobody's ever heard.
The South Shore part is on a specific inside list at an unheard story.
Unheard of story.
Should have prepped him for this.
Well, then, I don't know. You would have thought of something.
Example, it was in your book, the first one you talk about was you flew out to France.
Yeah. So I guess I haven't told this because it happened last week.
There you go. Breaking news.
So it was, I'm not going to give details because I think I'll be shocked, but let me see if I can phrase it this way. So last summer, you get those in search of emails all the time. Mm-hmm. So a broker with a very wealthy buyer reached out and said, does anyone have any off-market listings in this one specific building, uptown, okay, in Manhattan? And I had sold an apartment in that building initially when it first got built for like plus minus $30 million. This is a while ago. And so I replied and said, I might have a guy in there. No, I didn't speak to him. I had no idea if he wants to sell, whatever. I didn't even look at the building to realize that the comps, the most recent trades since my guy bought, are brutal. Because he bought, I guess technically at the top, in kind of like 2016, and then the market came down after that. And so a lot of other people got his similar line, but on, at much lower prices. And, she got back to me and said, well, I've got a guy, see if he would sell. So I reached out to this guy, like, hey, hope you're well. Would you ever be open to selling? And he was like, nah, because he's got young kids. His daughter's about to go through, his, I guess, senior year of high school, and he doesn't want to move around. It wouldn't make sense. He doesn't need the money, clearly. Like, he's all fine. I'm like, well, if the price makes sense, would you move? What's your future look like? Are you going to sell in 2 years, 3 years? It's like, let me talk to my wife. So he talks to his wife, comes back. It's like, we probably think about selling sometime in the next 5 years. But if you have somebody that wants to give us something insane, then let us know. So I go back to the buyer's agent. I'm like, he's open to us showing, but it would have to be insane. So I don't want to waste your time. If your guy's looking at the comps and is going to offer him $29 million when he paid 30 in 2016, let's not waste time. I want to keep that relationship good and don't mess me up. She comes back to me and says, I don't know what offer he would make, but he's willing to pay over market for the right thing. If it's in this building, we should show it. So I get the approvals, we go and we show it. And the buyers are pretty quiet. They don't really say a whole lot, but it seems they do like it. And they leave, and then I don't hear anything. So now it's like September going into October. They come back and he makes an offer. Okay. Makes an offer of $35 million, which is way above the comps, way above. And I go to my guy and I'm like, great news. $35 million, you have to move out tomorrow. And he's like, not worth it. You got to be fucking kidding me. Not worth it. You see what the comps are? And he's like, Ryan, we're not sellers. After your fee, their fee, I got to pay 2% in transfer taxes to get out of here. Like, to move my whole family from a home that we love, that we're not going to be able to replace. Clearly, this guy's seen everything else out there, and he doesn't want all of them. He wants ours, right? So clearly, we have the best. It just doesn't make any sense. So I go back and forth with him now over a couple weeks. Like, what price is going to take? I finally get him to tell me that he wants $45 million. The most recent comp is 27. And so anyway, so I go back to the buyer's agent and I'm like, I have a counter. If your guy really wants this place, it's 45. And she gets so mad at me. And I'm like, please. I told you from the beginning, I always set up expectations. He's not a real seller. He has no need to sell. And I got you a number. Your guy makes $100 bajillion a year. If he really wants this apartment, the number is 45. If he doesn't want it, it's not for sale anyway. So no problem. If I know of anything else, I'll let you know. I did my absolute best, right? But at 45, after all fees and all that, it ends up making sense to him, and he will uproot his whole family and his kids who love that apartment and everything. That's October. Okay? I don't hear anything. November, she says, reaches out to me, they'd like to come back. Like,
it's 45, right?
Yeah. And she's like, before they reconsider, because we've now seen even more things, they would just like to come back. So now I got to go convince my guy. He's like, tell them if they want to do it for 45, I'll let them come back. Don't let's not waste time. But I maneuver and I manipulate and I'm like, let's just get in one time. So I get them back in. And again, they're quiet. They don't say anything and they leave. And they don't do anything. Now it's December. Okay. Now it's New Year's. And my wife and I go on a vacation for 3 days to an island that I've never been to before, but it's a fancy one and it's super expensive. So the reason I've never gone, because I'm like, dude, beaches are beaches. I don't need to and she's like, no, but the people you'll meet there, it's worth it. And I'm like,
It's investment.
So she go to work.
so every year she says that. And every year I'm like, it's a quadruple the price of any other beach. So this year we go and it's fine or all that. We were talking before about like habits and all that. Yeah. So I grew up pretty overweight and I definitely have a sweet tooth. But I force myself to either have a sweet or a dessert or something either on Saturdays or when I go on vacation. And when I'm on vacation, calories don't exist. So every night, and to my wife's pure hatred, I have to go and find dessert. right? So one night, one of our 3 nights we're there, we go to these restaurants, and the Highland is so fancy. The restaurant desserts are gross, right? It's like pear pomfret covered in goose liver snacks. I'm like, this is not good. I need like ice cream.
So it's kind of healthy.
American ice cream on this godforsaken place. I find something in Google Maps. We take our little go-kart. We like drive up this hill into the darkness. We're in the middle of nowhere, and she's so upset. She's like, God, you and your ice cream desire. And I'm like, it's with the t-shirt, God damn it. And I'm standing at this place, and I'm like, hi, I would like cookies and cream ice cream, please, with rainbow sprinkles. It's going to make me feel better. I'm there. And then this dude walks up next to me. And we're in the middle of nowhere, like in the woods. It's some random like little ice cream joint at the top of this hill. And I look up, I look down. I look back up, and it's the fucking buyer.
No way.
And I look up, and I'm like, and he looks at me, and he double takes. He's like, hello. I'm like, I'm the real estate agent for the apartment that you made an offer on. Good to see you. And then I walk in the store to go pay. And I'm like prepping my ice cream sundae like I'm 6 years old. And my wife's in the car, and he follows me. He's like, what's the deal with that apartment? I'm like, whoa.
I'm just trying to eat.
Yeah, I saw that, dude.
I can't even.
He's got like a big ice cream too.
Got sprinkles.
Both eat ice cream. I love.
We're like 2 little kids there. I'm like, I gave you a counter, and he's like, but it's too much. I'm like, I know. It's definitely too much. But that's what it's going to take. Nowhere. Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. He's like, is there anything else we can do? I'm like, I don't know. But the fact that we just found each other right here means that I'm pretty sure you have to buy this apartment now. And he like laughed, and then we said goodbye, and we left. I got in the go-kart. I just told Amelia what just happened because she knew about the deal and whatever. And I was like, this thing is so crazy. And she's like, he's going to buy it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I saw that guy follow you, and I see what he looks like. That's a guy that believes in fate. And that's a guy where money doesn't mean anything. We go back home, anything. It was January. 2 weeks later, the broker calls me. She's like, you're not going to believe this. 45 million, we have a deal. And I'm like, are you full of shit? What's happening? She's like, no, I don't know. He went away for New Year's. I had an epiphany. He had back. He had a nice ice cream cone. We closed last week.
Wow.
Last week. And when I saw him at the final walkthrough, and I was like, yep. And he just looked at me, didn't say anything. But I was like, had I not gone on that damn stupid expensive vacation, that deal never would have happened. And so now Amelia's like, yep.
Locked up forever. Or a single year would go to a brand new expensive.
No. So we're literally last week, I went there last year for 3 days for the first time in my life. This week, we're going Christmas and New Year's. And I was like, boy, she was like, really? You want to go that long? I'm like, yep, done. Every night, we're going out. I had to meet everybody. I'm going to bump into everyone. We'd be like, hey, you believe in fate? Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in fate? Well, you and I just met. That means you should probably come by something from us.
Well, that's an awesome story.
Never told that before anywhere. So
That's very thought. It is awesome. So, like to thank you guys for viewing. Obviously, John and Tiriana.
thank you, sis. Thanks for having me. Let's go. We're down. Big thing.
Monday, baby.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.